Draymond will open on Giannis. Warriors beat Milwaukee without Antetokounmpo. And Draymond played the D early. It collapsed on Giannis perfectly that time. For Mark Lindsay and Brett Barnacle, Jonathan Sterling to blow the whistles.
How Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler are making stars look helpless. This is crazy. Night after night, we're watching elite scorers fold under the weight of Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler. They're forcing top-tier talent into panic mode, wrecking offensive game plans, and reminding everyone that defense still wins games. And somehow, they found a way to do it together, on a team many thought were past its prime. So how did this happen? And why are even the best in the league looking completely helpless? Well, let's find out. Before Jimmy, the Warriors' pre-trade struggles. Before Jimmy Butler landed in the Bay, the Warriors looked like a team caught between eras. Not quite old enough to retire their dynasty dreams, but not sharp enough to keep them alive either. Draymond was always on the wrong.
He's gone. He just got ejected. With 8:24 remaining in the first,
that's a huge blow in this type of game
against this team.
All the size they got.
The team still had Steph Curry doing Steph Curry things, dropping 30-point nights like clockwork, but it was getting harder to ignore how much weight he was carrying. At 36, Curry was leading the team in points, usage rate, and minutes in crunch time. When your best scorer is also your bailout plan every night, it's not a strategy, that's survival. The defense, which once defined the Warriors as much as their shooting did, had started to unravel. Last season, Golden State ranked second in defensive rating. By January 2025, they dropped to 18th, allowing 113.9 points per 100 possessions. They weren't getting beat by brilliant offense. They were getting beat by basic pick and rolls and sloppy closeouts. The rotations were slow, the communication was scattered, and without a second enforcer on the floor, Draymond Green found himself overextending, switching on to guards, helping on drives, trying to patch every hole by himself. The effort was there, but the energy wasn't sustainable. You could see it in his body language after blown assignments. There was too much finger-pointing. Then came the Andrew Wiggins problem, or rather, the Andrew Wiggins confusion. After being a key two-way piece in their 2022 championship run, Wiggins' game quietly drifted. His offensive impact dropped, averaging 17.2 points on 44% shooting, and his defensive engagement faded game to game. Whether it was mental fatigue, lack of role clarity, or a locker room disconnect, no one really knew. What was clear, though, was that he wasn't the same player, and the team felt it. There were visible chemistry lapses, odd hesitations on switches, passive play from someone expected to absorb top perimeter matchups. The Warriors tried adjusting, mixing in Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga more, but the gaps in consistency remained. That uncertainty forced the front office to make a move, not just for talent, but for tone and defense. So they acquired Jimmy Butler. Why Jimmy Butler? The Warriors didn't just trade for Jimmy Butler because he was available. They traded for him because they were desperate for someone who could immediately shift the way they played, the way they carried themselves, and the way opponents saw them. It wasn't about putting more points on the board. It was about putting more pressure on everyone else. The deal itself sent Andrew Wiggins and draft capital to Miami in a multi-team swap. For Golden State, it wasn't just a roster upgrade, it was a culture play. And it paid off instantly. In Butler's first 3 games, he averaged 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 5.7 assists, all on the road. Even Draymond Green, who rarely hands out compliments without bite, called Butler a franchise changer. He said flat out, without Jimmy, they would have lost a tough back-to-back against Houston. With him, they pulled off a 105-98 win less than 24 hours after a draining loss to Dallas. And you could see the chemistry between Draymond and Jimmy even in the first game.
Minutes. He's kind of the de facto point guard playing with Podziemski, who's always better with a ball handler. And that pass from Draymond to Butler, laid in and drawing the foul.
I told you he could keep doing that, and Draymond's always going to be looking for him. Just push your man up. Use your physicality.
Jimmy brings something the Warriors' core didn't have, not even during their peak years. He brings controlled chaos. In last year's playoffs with Miami, Butler averaged 28.5 points per game, many of them coming in late fourth quarters or overtime. He's that rare player whose game tightens when the stakes rise. That's exactly what Golden State had been missing. And defensively, he's a problem. Always has been. Butler doesn't just stick to his man, he hunts. In switches, he'll call for the toughest cover. Off the ball, he'll sneak into passing lanes. His presence has already lifted the team's communication and perimeter resistance. There's a reason opponents are shooting just 43.2% from the field against Golden State since his arrival. They're getting no clean looks. But above all, what sold the Warriors front office wasn't just Butler's numbers or resume. It was the edge. But Jimmy can't do it alone. Now that Jimmy and Draymond are both on the floor together, you could feel it. Something's different. The way they move and the way they close out quarters is a problem for many teams. Let's break down how the two have transformed the Warriors into a defensive nightmare. But before that, if you're enjoying the video, hit that subscribe button for more content like this. Now, moving on. The duo, player synergy. When Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green share the floor, the Warriors take on a completely different identity. Just have a look at this.
The Warriors are 10 for 20 from three-point range, 50%.
Okay, Draymond, 7 threes attempted, and he's knocked down 4, and he's looking at the Raptor bench, and there's a nice back and forth. Coach Rajakovic is like, are you?
Everyone was watching Butler while Draymond quietly sneaked in. This duo mostly dictated how other teams play. They control the rhythm, force stars into isolation, and take turns jamming up the opposing team's best options until someone either turns the ball over or settles for a bad shot. And it's brutally effective. Since Butler joined the rotation, the Warriors' defense rating, with both he and Draymond on the court, has jumped to 108, an elite number in today's league. And it's not because they block shots or rack up wild steal numbers. It's because of their coordination. They communicate constantly, even when the cameras aren't focused on them, calling out backdoor cuts, sliding over to help, switching at the exact right time without hesitation. You'll often see Draymond take the big, Butler grab the wing, and then mid-possession, they'll flip without a word. They read actions faster than most offenses can execute them. But what makes them lethal is the way they talk, loudly and constantly, and to everyone, including their opponents. It's psychological warfare. Watch a replay, and you'll see Butler smirking during a trap, or Draymond jawing with a shooter he just can't close out on. It's part performance, part mental disruption, and it works. Just ask the Bucks. In that win earlier this month, they forced Giannis into 6 turnovers and held the team to just 93 points. Jimmy scored 9 straight in the fourth to cap it, but the story was defense. Milwaukee looked rushed, rattled, like they lost track of the plan. Now, instead of Draymond being the only voice barking commands, he has a partner doing the same thing from the other end of the floor. That's not chemistry, that's pressure, from both sides. But great defense is only part of the equation. What makes this duo historic is how they're exposing players we thought were untouchable, frustrating the league's best. When you watch Luka Doncic struggle to find rhythm, Jason Tatum hesitate on a drive, or Anthony Edwards pass out of a matchup he usually attacks, something feels off, like the usual roles of engagement don't apply. And they don't. Not when Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green are both on the floor, locked in and hunting. These aren't your typical defenders. In a recent game against the Warriors, Tatum faced relentless defensive pressure, particularly from Draymond Green and the Warriors' defensive scheme. Anytime he tried to post up or isolate, Golden State crowded the lanes, baiting him into tough mid-air decisions. No easy switches, no rhythm pull-ups. Just a rotating wall of help defenders and sharp rotations, making Tatum work for every shot. It's not the kind of defense you game plan for. It's the kind you survive. Giannis Antetokounmpo doesn't get shut down often. Even on bad nights, he usually finds a way to put pressure on defenses. Bully ball into the paint, transition sprints, free throws at worst. But when the Bucks came into Chase Center, something rare happened. Giannis went 0 for 6 from the field when guarded by Draymond Green. No fouls to bail him out, no rhythm, just brick after brick. For a player who thrives on momentum, it looked like someone had unplugged him from the game. But perhaps the most telling example came in the Mavericks game. Luka Doncic, a player known for dissecting defenses like a surgeon, found himself slowed down by relentless traps and off-ball shade coverage. When Jimmy guarded him straight up, Luka went 1 for 5 from the floor. When Draymond switched onto him, he turned it over twice in 3 possessions. The Warriors didn't even need to stop him on every play. They just made him think on every dribble. That's the brilliance of this duo. But it's not just about how they stop people. It's about how they reshape the team's identity. Let's talk about the road ahead. The road ahead. You see, the Golden State Warriors are now 41-30 with just a few weeks left in the regular season. After beating the Raptors 117-114 in a close one, they firmly locked into the 6th seed in the Western Conference, which crucially keeps them out of the play-in for now. That's the sweet spot. High enough to avoid extra games, low enough to stay under the radar. But their final stretch won't be easy. They've still got matchups against the Nuggets, Suns, and Clippers, all teams jockeying for playoff position and looking to exploit any weakness. And with only 12 games left, every possession matters. The most intriguing potential first-round matchup? The Sacramento Kings. In 2023, that series was a bloodbath. 7 games, emotional swings, and Steph dropping 50 in Game 7. But this time around, there's a different tone. With Jimmy Butler in the mix and Draymond locked in, Sacramento won't be able to rely on the same offensive freedom. De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis would be walking into a far less forgiving environment. Another possibility is a matchup with the Clippers, which would pit Kawhi and PG against Butler and Draymond in a physical chess match, not to mention the storyline fireworks. The X factors for the Warriors headed into April are Brandon Podziemski and Moses Moody. Podziemski has emerged as a legit playmaker, capable of controlling tempo and hitting big threes in late-game situations.
Nice block. Warrior defense. Once he's got Giannis lifted, he'll shoot another 3. He just stopped.
Moody, meanwhile, has embraced his role as a wing defender off the bench, giving them lineup flexibility when Klay needs rest or matchups require fresh legs. But as much as the supporting cast matters, the playoffs will come down to the mindset of the core. They've been there before, and they know what it takes. But now, for the first time in years, it feels like they have the grit to do it again, just with a different formula. So what do you make of this new-look Warriors squad? Can Jimmy and Draymond really push them all the way to another ring? Drop your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to give the video a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more amazing videos like this one.